And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Perkins Consolidated Monitoring webinar. My name is Sydney Kobza. I serve as the Assistant Director of the Office of Career and Technical Education at the Department of Education. Myself and members of the Nebraska CTE team are here to walk you through the process of the Perkins Consolidated Monitoring. And so last year we consolidated both the Perkins monitoring and the methods of administration monitoring. And so we're just going to give you a brief overview of the entire process of both of them, and then just what are some of the differences too. And then hopefully answer any questions that you still have about the process and just all of the support and resources that we have throughout the next month or two as you go through this. And so to start, again, just kind of the agenda for today. We'll do a brief welcome and introduction from our NDE team. Again, I'll go over the whole monitoring process for you. We'll talk about the different areas under review. Lexi is going to go through each of the worksheets that you'll be taking a look at and hopefully answering any questions that you might have from those. And then just what other technical assistance that we offer, as well as other resources that we have for this process. And then again, we'll have plenty of time at the end to answer all of your questions that you have. And so to start, for a welcome and introduction, we would like it if you would put your name, your title, and your school in the chat. And so your name, your title, and your school. If you put that in the chat, and then members of the NDE team will come off mute and share who they are and how they are providing service in this process. And so let's go ahead and we'll start with Terry Slope.
Good afternoon, I'm Terry Slope and I'm the Perkins Grant Manager. And I also can try to help you if you ever have any questions in using the GMS system.
Mary Jansen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary Jansen. I am the Business Marketing Management Career Field Specialist. And I also serve as the Office of Civil Rights MOA Methods of Administration Coordinator. So I will work with the schools that will have an OCR review throughout this process. I work really closely with Lexi Neiman and Lily Blaze, who will also be helping and working with our methods of administration reviews.
Lexi Neiman.
I'm Lexi Neiman. I serve as the CTE data specialist, and then I'm very hands-on in the Perkins monitoring, and then as well as assisting Mary in the MOA process as well.
Lily Blaze.
I'm Lily Blaze, and I'm the person not from CTE, but I'm from NDE. I'm over in the Voc Rehab Division with Assistive Technology Partnership, and I serve as an ADA specialist. A lot of my time is with the SPED office, but in the last, maybe it's been 3 years now, I've been helping CTE with ADA. So you might say I'm the person that will show up with a tape measure.
Chelsea Green is joining us.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chelsea Green. I serve as a Human Sciences and Education Career Field Specialist on the CTE team, and specifically, I serve as the Perkins Monitor for ESU 4 and Beatrice.
And I can't see if, and Sarah Heidemann is just entering the webinar, but Sarah serves as the Perkins Monitor for Hastings and Grand Island. And so, as I know several folks have been coming into the webinar, as you are coming into the webinar, if you will put your name, your title, and your school so that we have a record of that in the chat, please do that. So again, your name, title, and school. All right. And we'll go ahead and continue with the webinar. And so again, a brief overview of the monitoring process, really wanting to share, you can see the purpose of the monitoring. We have everything listed out. This was also included in those worksheets that you received. But Perkins 5 has given us the opportunity to shift from a compliance structure of monitoring to a more technical assistance way of monitoring. And so our focus is going to be on providing the supports versus just checking a box and making sure something is there. And so we really want to make sure this is not like a gotcha type of monitoring. It's more providing the support and the assistance that was outlined through just a risk assessment in both the Perkins process and the MOA process and the consolidated process. And so the steps to monitoring would be, they're listed out in kind of this visual with the arrow. We have the monitoring manuals that were sent to you by, they were sent to each of the local education agencies, and hopefully got you started on completing those worksheets and gathering those necessary materials. The LEA will submit that worksheet to their Perkins monitor prior to the review. And Lexi will go into some more detail as to why that's important, so we can structure those meetings, whether on site or virtual, to have the support that you need for those visits. The virtual and or on-site review will then be conducted, and I believe those dates were due by December 18th, or those dates needed to be set before December 18th. You'll receive a written or final summary of your monitoring review. And then you can request or accept any technical assistance and resources as needed from that process. This is the Perkins monitoring review. I'm going to transition to the methods of administration, or the MOA monitoring process, and Mary Jansen will talk about this process.
Thanks, Sydney. And yeah, like you can tell, there's a couple more components, or it's a little more squeezed onto this slide. But this outlines just kind of the step-by-step process that we'll use for our OCR reviews. And all of this information was shared as well, but it'll start off with the initial letter that was sent, direction with materials to where on the website, and then all review dates. And I believe were finalized all review dates for all of the schools that will be having an OCR review. So that's awesome. From there, so ideally before we do either the virtual or on-site or a combination of both reviews, that second step is submitting materials via Google Drive or your own way to share those materials. And in the past, we've had some LEAs that will use like Microsoft Teams to create folders. We've created those Google Drive folders for you. But to ensure that all that information ideally is shared before the actual review. So that gives our team time to go through all of those different materials. And that's also outlined on the website as far as what materials we're looking for, links to different areas on the website or board policies and things like that as well. Lily will also be conducting those on-site reviews. So working with her to determine when those times will be done, and then also ensuring that there's a separate facilities checklist. So ensuring that that facilities checklist is completed before Lily comes out for the on-site review as well. So she can use that as she walks around. The next step is obviously connecting those, the virtual and on-site reviews. So a lot of the virtual components, if we're not going to be there in person, are the interviews and then going through the materials, and then the on-site reviews obviously focus a lot on the facilities aspect of that, or if we're doing the interviews on site as well. So that will be with myself, that will be with Lexi Neiman, and then also with Lily Blaze. So after we conduct all of those reviews, we'll meet and then send out what we call our LOF, or a letter of findings, within 30 days of the last review activity. So if Lily is coming out a little bit later for the on-site review, or if the interviews are later, it'll be within 30 days of our last activities. That shows kind of commendations, so things that we saw that were great, recommendations from us to change, and then requirements, so things that we require you change that we found. So that will be sent, and then each LEA will create a voluntary compliance plan where they'll outline how you will address the things that were required to change within 60 days. And then from there, you have a year to complete all of those activities. So that and that's from when we approve the voluntary compliance plan. So that's kind of that whole process laid out. It really starts with the review and then the letter of findings, and then ends with the completion of the voluntary compliance plan. And Obviously, our team is here throughout every step of the way to help you to answer any questions and to help you complete those different activities as well.
And so to go over what areas are under review, and you should have received an email that explained what area that you will be focusing in on those monitoring worksheets. And so we have 4 areas under review, and those are listed at the bottom. And the different components for each review are listed in the blocks of tiles above it. And so looking at the coordination of your Perkins programming, focusing on student achievement and making sure that all students have access. Those are all highlighted within those certain sections of the worksheet. And so if you have any questions about these different areas, hopefully as we go through the worksheets, those questions are answered. And so I will turn it over to Lexi as she goes through the monitoring worksheets.
Thanks, Sydney. So I dropped a link in the chat that is actually where you can find a copy of these worksheets. So I wanted to add the caveat that there's 3 options. The first one is a standalone. So I'm going to use Beatrice as an example. Beatrice is solely a district by themselves for Perkins funds. So you would use the standalone. ESU4, you would use the consortium as you have a consortium connected to Perkins funding. And then community college, obviously the community college would use that, but I just wanted to add those 3 different types of worksheets can all be found just clicking on it. And I didn't say this last year, so I want to be able to say it again. It's a really easy when sending this worksheet back if you don't lock it as a PDF, so it can continue to stay a working document, both on the NDE side and the district side when we get ready to actually have a dialogue about the information given into these worksheets. So I want to start with this first page. It's the cover page, and this would actually be filled out by the districts that were selected, and the NDE reviewer would be whom the Perkins monitor would be. So Chelsea or Sarah in the cases of this. So the breakdown would be there's 3 possible areas to review for Perkins monitoring. MOA would be a separate function of these worksheets. So let's say you were selected for data reporting and program performance. The area review of number 1 would be program performance, and the area of review number 2 would be data reporting, as it says choosing the items. And it doesn't necessarily have to go in the particular order of 1, 2, or 3. We don't really have a set order, although I would recommend following the worksheet, and it starts as program performance. And then Sydney, if you want to select to the next slide, this is actually sort of the in-depth piece of the worksheet. So this would be the program performance and procedures piece. So it's about I want to say 3 different sections. So it'll go into student achievement, and you'll be able to talk through student achievement pieces. If you need data, I'm happy to pull reports for you and send them as you are getting ready to sit down with whomever is at the table to do these worksheets, sending you the most updated and accurate Perkins data that's available for you all as you list through these pieces of the program performance, as well as obviously data reporting too. They follow along the assurances that everyone would have signed in GMS in order to receive Perkins, which is an important component of monitoring. And then the potential sources of evidence can obviously come directly from the district, or like I said, if you need help with those reports, I'm happy to be able to talk you through it as well. I can link my email in the chat at the end. But what we really want to be intentional about is the responses in the comments, and being able to give this worksheet back to us in ample time for us to be able to be intentional with the technical assistance that we would provide on the day of your monitoring. So I want to use work-based learning as an example. If you are going through these worksheets and you find that work-based learning is predominantly where a lot of the technical assistance is needed, we would be able to bring Therese Marzouk in, who is on the NDE side, in charge of our work-based learning unit. So this would be a great opportunity for us to proactively bring people to the table as well that can provide technical assistance more specifically to the responses that you give to us. And this can be filled out by whomever the district decides is somebody that needs to be at the table, not necessarily just specifically the Perkins coordinator or the Perkins monitor at the district level. And I wanted to leave time for questions as I sent the link out. If there's something as you all were going through and navigating the worksheet that you found you need clarification on, or just need more information as well. And you can happy to come off mute or put it in the chat. I know that was a lot of information I just threw at all of you for being the end of the day almost. So I'm happy to also answer it in emails as well as it comes up. Same with Chelsea and Sarah, the monitors. All right, Mary, back to you.
Thanks. So yeah, as Lexi mentioned before, the MOA process is different than the Perkins monitoring process. So on the screen, you'll see just a quick snapshot of what the Office of Civil Rights Review website looks like. Each one of those components has drop downs. So when you go to that website, which is linked at the bottom there, like the compliance manual is drop down, sample interview questions. So when we do the virtual or in-person interviews, those are all linked there as well. The materials checklist and the on-site review checklist is linked there too, along with that facilities checklist. And then there's some sample formats for the voluntary compliance plan when you get to that step. So what those look like. There's also sample agendas. So as you're preparing for our either virtual on-site visit, what kind of the day will look like, how long some of those interviews will go, and how you might want to structure the agenda. That is all up to the LEA. So working with your team, your folks, whoever will be involved, and structuring those interview times that will work best in your schedule as well. So there's some samples of those too. There's also a PowerPoint and along with a really fun recording of my voice over it, which is always great. That goes through kind of the whole OCR process too. So kind of the history behind why we do these Office of Civil Rights reviews, why it's located within CTE, and then some common things that we see on the reviews. So some common areas of concern or things to be aware of as you're preparing as well. So that's all linked on the website. On this slide, there's also a link to the Google folders to upload those materials. And I let me know if you don't have access to those folders. I added each superintendent within that, and then anyone else that we might have had communication with to have access with those links. And I know that some of you have already been putting things in those folders, which is great. But if you don't have access to those Google folders, please let us know. And again, you have kind of the flexibility to use any platform that you want to submit all of the materials from the materials checklist and everything that we asked for. And I used the example earlier, but we had a district that uses primarily Microsoft, and so they work a lot out of Teams and not out of Google. So they created just those folders within a Microsoft Teams channel. That is totally acceptable as well. Just a way that we can access all of those things too. And you can share those folders with anyone within your LEA or district or school that you want to also contribute those materials. So divide and conquer. If you have counselors or people within special services or student services that want to also upload that, don't feel like you as a superintendent or as a point person have to do all of those things as well. Those are in there. There's also a resources for reviews folder within that. And it really just goes through, so when you open that up, kind of the step-by-step process again, but a little bit more laid out or detailed as far as kind of where to start and where to finish with the process. So again, the PowerPoint's in there, review of the website, and then also how to submit those materials. Some different releases are in there as well. So if you'll have, we have student interviews as part of that, and if they'll be taking place over Zoom, so a virtual aspect, we'll need a release form for that. So that's located in there, along with picture requests. The picture requests really come in handy when we're not on site. So if we're planning to do an on-site review. So Lily's coming out there, which I think is the case with all of them. Don't feel obligated to upload all of those pictures because we'll be able to see those in person as well. Previously, when we do just virtual, those would help, but don't feel like you need to do those ones as well. So really it's set up to kind of go through and have those resources available. But as always, I am here, Lexi and Lily are here as well to help answer any questions, or if you're unsure about certain things, or if you're coordinating with a larger group of people or whatever the case may be, we're here to help that process as well. So when we get to the actual reviews, they're pretty smooth sailing and we have everything that we need, and then we can kind of move forward from there as well. So you'll have this, I believe we'll send this out too. So you'll have those links, but the links were also shared with you previously. So.
Okay. Just a reminder to everyone that works with the Perkins grant that we do have a main source of information. It's our Perkins Management Guide, and we keep it posted on our website. We do keep it updated annually, and we have a very important section called the allowable and non-allowable uses of funds. This is an area that might answer a lot of your questions before you even need to reach out to anyone. This guide also adheres to the policies and procedures for audit compliance and program quality. And just a reminder that our compliance office does refer to this guide when they are looking at reimbursements. And so they will check the allowable and non-allowables to see what we have in the guide and what was purchased. So just a reminder on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Terry and Mary and Lexi. In addition to all of these areas identified through the monitoring process, we're here to help with anything related to career and technical education. And so as questions come up, if you are currently or already have some of these program areas or are interested in some of these supports, we're here to offer assistance in that. And so just wanting to make sure you know we're here all year, not just through the monitoring process. Happy to help. And so with that, we'll move on to questions from this process. And so feel free to come off mute and ask questions, or feel free to ask them in the chat, and we'll get you the best answer.
This is Jason.
Sydney, this might be a dumb question, but when I opened up the emails from the OCR and, Mary, it looks to me like I just have an OCR visit, not a Perkins visit. Is that correct?
Yep, not a dumb question, and that is correct.
Okay, that makes more sense then. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah. So all of the LEAs or schools or districts that will have a Office of Civil Rights or MOA visit, I believe now will not have a Perkins, right? I'm right on that, correct?
Yeah, so
Yes.
if you would be getting Perkins, so what we talked about, the program performance, the data usage, and MOA, that we would call that comprehensive monitoring. And we didn't have anyone selected for comprehensive this year. So it would be LEAs are either solely MOA or they're solely Perkins monitoring in those three different categories.
Who do we contact? I'm the associate superintendent, and we're not getting the emails. So who would we contact to get those sent to us?
What district? Or
Grand Island Public Schools.
Grand Island. Okay. So we could have Sarah reach out to you, and you can just be added to the list of emails that would be sent to Grand Island.
So you'll contact Sarah, or do I need to contact?
You can contact Sarah with your email. And honestly, if there's anybody else you feel as though should be added to that email chain from Grand Island, you can include their emails in there as well.
So I have a couple questions, actually. I think earlier you had mentioned that there was an email that went out. I received it, but I thought you had said, or somebody had said that there were attachments to that email. And the only attachment that I saw was just like a more formal letter about it. Was there supposed to be anything else with that?
No, the formal letter was just to explain to you which category of Perkins monitoring you were selected. And then this meeting served as being able to get the worksheets. Those attachments would be what you actually need to fill out. So it should be that everyone from the Perkins monitoring side, I'm not sure from Mary's communication point from MOA, is just that initial email that went out acknowledging what areas you have monitoring in, and then any correspondence that has been issued about setting a time to meet for monitoring.
Okay.
So one piece of information I have, this is Robin from Grand Island. It says, advise you that Grand Island Public Schools has been identified to receive a targeted monitoring review.
Yeah, so how I explained comprehensive would be the collective of all types of monitoring. Targeted would be it's specific to whatever would be listed. So if, let's say, data reporting and program performance was issued, those are considered targeting because it's targeted in those two specific areas.
So CTE program offerings is what we're targeting.
So program performance.
Program performance. All right. Thank you.
Are there other questions regarding the process?
Yeah, I'll throw another one out, and really not trying to stir the pot here, but I have a couple of questions about the timing of all of this. So, we get a notification and, that first week of November or whatever, and then we had about 3 weeks before this webinar happens. And then this was supposed to kind of kick off like, oh, these are the things that you have to do. And then we really only have just 2 to 3 weeks after this webinar to get all of this accomplished and organized. Is it imperative that these have to happen in December, or can they be pushed back? Because honestly, I'm the one that's filling all of this out. I'd love to pass it on to our high school principal and some of our CTE staff there, but they've got their hands full too. But I mean, I've got a million things going on as well. And this is like taking an insane amount of time really to me to organize it on top of everything else.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback. We really need to hear from districts what timeline works for you. We follow what's outlined in our management guide in that slide that Terry had talked about earlier, but we're at the assistance of you and we understand your scheduling. And so we're always willing to work fine. So if December doesn't work for Hastings, we can move it to January, or we can move it to a timeframe that works more within your scheduling specifically. That should have been stated probably as we were scheduling the meetings, but it just ends up being that we followed the management guide. But yes, absolutely flexible with whatever we need to be.
Good. So that might be something that I'm going to consider. I mean, like I'm putting together a Google folder to share with you guys. I mean, I'd be happy to give you access to that and you can just see kind of where I'm at and chipping away at it. But yeah, I would seriously consider a January date if possible. That would give me some time. So I'll stay in touch about that. Thanks.
Lawrence, I appreciate you stepping up there. As I look at the process, it looks to me like also if we provide information, there still looks like there's an opportunity that we might be given time, find deficiencies in what we provide, and then there'll be a year to correct all that. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the MOA process, yeah, we ask you to provide the Google Drive and those materials in advance to give us time to look through some of those main things and to look for, what we're looking for. And then so after that visit, we'll do kind of an exit interview. So whether it be virtual or if we're there in person, at the end of the day or 2 days reviews, we'll just say, kind of some preliminary things, so informal that we found, and then follow up with that letter of findings within 30 days. So that'll give you kind of a month after that. And then in the letter of findings, it will address, the letter of findings from the review. And then you have 2 more months after that to create that plan. So kind of determining how and when and who will be responsible for addressing some of that we call the non-compliance issues or things that we found. So that gives you, like, one example is part for facilities, and that's Lily's forte, but like parking stalls. So sometimes we find that there's not enough accessible parking stalls. A lot of districts paint in the summer, so do the kind of the parking stalls or repaint in the summer. So that allows you that time and flexibility, hopefully, to find what's going to work best for your school or district and staff to remedy some of those things. So to give you time to do that, or if the students will be out for the summer, and if it's again a facilities thing, then you can work on that during the summer or whenever is most convenient. So it's not kind of an immediate thing as well. So that's kind of that gives you time to remedy those things as well. With that.
Is just looking at the list of 27 things that we have to come up with that on the materials checklist.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I went into the OCR website and numerous documents, seems like there's just link after link after link. And every time I click on one, here's a new big list of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
just is kind of overwhelming, to be honest.
I know. Yeah. I would really focus on, what we really look at is the materials checklist. And
Okay.
then Lily uses that facilities checklist when she goes through and walks through. So like the measurements and all of those different things, exits, entrances, stalls, she uses that to really hopefully make that on-site, like the facilities walkthrough, faster for us if those things are done in advance. The materials checklist provides us all of those links and all of those things kind of at our hands in our app for us to be able to access, to go through and look for certain things. Like, so one example is the person most responsible, or who's the Title IX coordinator, or those things. So like a link, that's why we asked for a link to the faculty handbook, the student handbook as well. Also, please don't feel like for the student handbook, if that's linked on your website, you can just provide the link in that. So you don't feel like you have to download it and then upload it. We can use the website to find that. But if you provide us the specific link for that, then it's easier for us to kind of go through and look for those things that we're looking for as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One area of support that we've provided in the past too, as you get into the worksheets, is just setting up a Zoom with folks from the NDE to walk through and help go through and like sort information, pull data reports as you need those too. So as you are going through these, if you find yourself stumbling or just needing some extra support, please reach out. We're here to help, and jump on a Zoom call. If we're able to come out as well, that's something that we would offer too. Any other questions that we can address today? We do appreciate the feedback as we are refining the process. And again, as I think Lexi stated it beautifully, we're here to support you and serve you. So please reach out as you are going through this process, and we're here to help and provide the best support we can to provide access to high quality CTE across the state of Nebraska.
And then I just wanted to add, I had dropped a link in the chat to our entire CTE team. So if you need to get a hold of any of the 4 of us, 5 of us, sorry, Terry, then you can find us there. Lily, if you also wanted to drop your email in the chat, you can do that as well. If anyone has any questions when it comes to the ADA compliance piece. And again, it's like Sydney said, there's going to probably be questions or clarifications as you work through those worksheets. So please feel free to reach out to us. It's an open dialogue the whole way through, even when we actually have our monitoring visit. So I just want to make sure that we keep that communication open.
Thank you again. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.